Biotherapeutics use cells and components of cells such as proteins, genetic material, viruses to harness the cell's own machinery to actually address the underlying process of disease. So unlike drugs, biotherapeutics can actually address some of the fundamental mechanisms underlying disease and can, for instance, repair and regenerate damaged tissue in the heart after a heart attack, or even attack cancer cells. While drugs tend to treat the symptoms of disease, biotherapeutics can actually address the underlying processes, biological processes that cause the disease. So biological therapeutics may actually be able to even cure some diseases, like the rare genetic defects that cause the boy in the bubble syndrome, or even to treat some advanced blood cancers that can't be treated by other therapies, and in some cases actually cure that disease. So we're not the only facility in Canada, and we're not even the largest facility, but we've been by far the most successful in producing high-quality clinical-grade products that support clinical trials. So we're also the only hospital-based facility in Canada that can produce viruses and vaccines, which of course is very successful in this current pandemic. We're also able to do the full end-to-end manufacturing. That includes fill finish, which is taking the final product and putting it into vials or other containers that can be delivered for direct use into the patient. I think when the pandemic first struck, like everyone, it seemed a bit surreal. I think the thing that scared me the most was how little we knew about this virus. We didn't know how it was transmitted. We didn't know who was most at risk. And we certainly didn't know how to treat this. So as a researcher, when you're faced with these important questions, it really kicks you into high gear. And you say, well, this is the time we've really got to get started and find the answers to these important questions. So right from the start of the pandemic, I began thinking about doing a clinical trial. So we were out of the country at the time. So one of my main concerns was trying to get home safely, but while I was doing that, I was already beginning to jot down notes as to how we could pivot a cell therapy that we'd been working on, a kind of stem cells called mesenchymal stromal cells that are able to reduce inflammation and improve tissue damage and healing, particularly in patients that have the kind of lung disease that COVID patients are suffering from. So really at the very beginning, I was beginning to plot out how we could do that. So we'd already done a phase 1 safety trial using the very same kind of cell type, stem cell type, to treat patients with severe septic shock. And these patients share many of the same features as COVID patients, including the severe lung injury that makes the lungs unable to take up oxygen. But we could never have done this without the support of and the infrastructure at the hospital, including the Method Center. So these are people that are so expert at designing and performing clinical trials. The cell manufacturing facility that could design the manufacturing protocols and get all the validation needed for Health Canada approval. And finally, the tremendous coordinators we have in the ICU who are really at the front lines of the pandemic and actually enrolling patients into these trials. Yeah, when we had the first patient enrolled and receiving the first dose of this cell product, it was really amazing. Although we've done a number of these trials, it's always a suspenseful experience because you never know what's going to happen with a new product, and you're always concerned there might be some problems or reactions to it. So you can feel the tension. And I was actually come in and I was there at the bedside in the intensive care unit as we did this. All sort of holding our breath a bit. It's a bit like the Mars landing, where you don't know what's going to happen. And of course, as always, things went very smoothly. There were no problems or reactions whatsoever. And then you feel this sense of, not relief, but of hope, because you start thinking, well, maybe this will make a difference. Yeah, so I was actually blown away by the response of researchers at the Ottawa Hospital to the pandemic. We had about 60 research projects that were launched in the early days of the pandemic, and they really ranged from everything from development of innovative new vaccines to ways of better supporting populations that were most at risk, like our homeless populations. The other thing was remarkable was within the early weeks and months of the pandemic, our researchers have been able to attract over $10 million of highly competitive research funding. And this is a real testament to the quality and competitiveness of the researchers we have at the Ottawa Hospital. It's really shone a light on a tremendous strength we have at the Ottawa Hospital, and that's our biomanufacturing facilities. We hope now that the success that we've had in leveraging these facilities to do some of this important work will really help us in our goal to expand these facilities. Right now they're at capacity, and it's really a stretch to add on additional projects like this. So we really need to find resources to expand the facilities so that we can be better prepared to react to these situations. So we're hearing a lot in the media now about the relative lack of biomanufacturing facilities in Canada. So I believe that the capacity we have here at the Ottawa Hospital can really help in addressing this. In fact, we are already involved in the manufacture of 3 vaccines now, for which will be entering clinical testings and hopefully being available to the general population. But perhaps most importantly is having a world-class biomanufacturing facility embedded within a teaching hospital. We are ideally positioned to train these highly skilled workers, the technicians that actually do the manufacturing, and that's really where the magic happens. In fact, we have a unique training program that develops these skills not only for our manufacturing facility, but for facilities across Canada. It is the people within our biomanufacturing facility that make it so successful. We have over 40 highly skilled, highly trained personnel that do all the manufacturing, and this is where the magic actually happens. They do all the production, the quality control, all the things that are necessary to make high-grade, clinical-grade therapeutic products that can safely be delivered to our patients. Community support is absolutely essential. While the Ottawa Hospital is one of the most successful hospitals in obtaining highly competitive research funds, these grants only support the costs of the research projects, and they don't support the maintenance and the operations of the facility, which of course is vital to the success of the research program. So we really depend on the community to allow us to have the kind of core facilities that allow us to do these innovative projects, and in particular biomanufacturing, which is a key element in terms of our success.